I think unemployment is up like 83% or something in the tech industry, and the main reason for that that was given was AI.
So why solopreneurs? Why do they interest you?
You can't just optimize for SEO anymore. You have to have a markdown version of the website so that it can be read by LLMs, so that your website can be surfaced in an LLM chat. Because in the old days, there were so few touch points in advertising to reach a consumer. Now, it used to be something like 18 in the 90s. Now it's like 38, 40. 40 times someone has to see your brand to then go, oh, that's that company that does AI transformation.
AI, is it hype or help? G'day and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Pete Cooper, and our topic is AI, hype or help. Today's guest is Alice Bull. She's coming to us from the south coast of the United Kingdom with her company, Tincture. She's helping small companies and solopreneurs adopt and use AI very effectively. This is going to be great, so let's get into it. Welcome, Alice. How are you doing
Thank you. Thank
today?
you for having me. Well, it's very hot, so we're in the middle of a heat wave, but very good otherwise. Thank you.
Yeah, so where are you coming to us from?
I'm the south coast of England.
Hmm.
So yeah, hottest place on earth right now, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What
it's
is
very.
it? What is it today?
I think it's like 34 or something today. It got up to 41 a
Oh
couple
my
of weeks
goodness.
ago, which was, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah, and for our American audience, we're talking about into the 95s and into the hundreds, aren't we, for that?
Yeah, every time I
Mm.
speak to my American friends, I have to do the translation for them. But yeah, you're used to it. We're not, we don't have air conditioning.
Oh, really?
No, no, not in the UK. No.
Oh,
We go
goodness
to we
gracious.
go to the supermarket to get relief.
That's that's crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm in Pennsylvania, which I think is even further north than you guys. Um,
Mhm.
No, actually, I think it's the other way around. I think you guys are further north. Anyway, we have I installed small air conditioners in the windows each summer. I take them out again each winter.
Mhm.
Anyhow, we're going a little bit off topic. Alice,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about what you do. Do you, what's your profession?
So I work with mostly small businesses and one-man bands, solopreneurs to streamline operations and go-to-market processes with AI.
Nice, nice. And how long have you been doing that for?
I was thinking about this the other day. So I've been in marketing and operations for about 2 decades, 19, 20 years. And I started working with AI to introduce it into, it was content creation really was one of the places that I saw content creation and finance,
Hmm.
weirdly, since about 2022. So the AI aspect of it, I've been doing for 4 years.
Hmm.
But it's obviously really, really ramped up, I'd say the last 18 months in
Yeah,
particular.
yeah. Well, interesting. 2022 was ChatGPT's sort of a launch where it actually became effective, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And we really started to see that kind of movement and it come out of the
Mm.
tech world into like the lexicon of people who maybe wouldn't have otherwise heard of it.
Yeah, and as you say, in the last 18 months, so in 2026 now, mid 2026, so started 2025, we really started to see, as you say,
Mhm.
I think an explosion.
Yeah.
I don't know what you saw, but I think the general populace would say 2025, ChatGPT, 2026, everything, just an explosion of tools and
Mhm.
capability. Yeah.
Yeah, although you say that, and I think it's so interesting, and I'm sure you see the same when you work in this world and you're so involved in it every day, and you're reading about like I don't know about you, but I have my Claude send me the news every morning, and it's all about like the tech world and startups and how it relates to go to market. But if you're not in it, I think there's still kind of a very, very large part of society who don't really who might dip in and out and use it as they would Google.
Mhm.
But they don't really see it as part of their life. And I think that's going to be an interesting thing to look at the next few years is how it really does creep its way into everyone rather than just the early adopters.
Yeah, I think with that, I think you definitely are an early adopter. 2022. I mean, my history goes back to the machine vision stuff, 2016, but we did obviously we didn't get into LLMs until much, much more recently. Um, and that's Well, you're talking about how it penetrates society. I think that's interesting. What I've noticed is just this huge amount of interest and attention to these big companies, right? And I
Mhm.
would say that's sort of a top-down thing, right? That they're so big and so much revenue, so much money's going there that it's really shaping the economy, especially here in the US.
Yeah.
So who follows that? Well, I think you get the retail, what I call retail, which is like ChatGPT, using it on a daily basis to like a browser or an advanced browser. And then you have the big companies going, jeepers, we've got to jump in on this. But there's this
Mhm.
huge, I guess, untapped potential. And you're talking about solopreneurs, aren't you? And I think that's a huge potential. So why solopreneurs? What do they interest you?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think I've always worked with quite small businesses, and I really, really enjoy working with small businesses because you can see yourself making a difference a lot quicker than if you're working with an enterprise business. So I love doing that. And and I think especially, and as you were saying, with big businesses coming into it, I've got some friends, for example, I've got a friend who works for a huge financial services company in America, and they're starting to ramp up their AI adoption. And it's really interesting to hear how slow the whole thing is. And there are so many layers of hierarchy in those kinds of businesses that it is really difficult to affect change quickly.
Mm,
And, it's almost like in a company like hers. And I think they are doing it the right way because they are such a huge business that they can't afford to get it wrong. But it is such an interesting, slow process because by the time they do one round of like, okay, we're going to try this, it's already moved on to the next thing.
mm,
So I really, really enjoy working with founders and small businesses because they're a lot more open to trying interesting things, to getting it wrong and trying again. And it's very, very quick to see introducing AI, introducing a process. It's very quick to see it take effect. It's instant.
mm.
So that's what I enjoy the most about it.
Yeah. And so how did you get it? I mean, we didn't cover this, your background, your training seemed to be marketing, but you don't sound like you were a coder. Maybe I'm wrong. Are you someone that's come from the software side of things as well, or mostly the marketing content generation? How did you sort of find your way to AI?
I taught myself how to code from a library book when I was 14.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. Well, there you go. I got that completely wrong, didn't I?
but no, I've never worked in it. So as soon as we got I think I was 13 or 14 when we got the internet at home,
Hmm.
and I was just immediately so enamored by how the internet connected you to different things and people. Like you could be connected to someone in America or like in Australia, and it just that was so magic to me. I grew up in the middle of the British English countryside. There wasn't a lot going on. It was just like this magical connection to a world that I'd never heard of. And that's what first sparked my interest. And I just really got something when I was younger from Bill. I used to build websites and I started my first web design business when I was 15 and used to make these, I mean, obviously awful in today's sense, but like really, I worked so hard on these websites.
Well, it's
And
so hard to do it back then too.
but I think being a girl, a woman, you're not really sold software engineering as a possible career path. It was like you could be a journalist or a solicitor. I was neither. I went into marketing. But I never even considered being a developer. I think if I had my time again, I wish I was. My husband is a developer. He's an AI engineer, so I get it that way. But at least I've managed to weasel my way back into that world of developing and building.
Yeah. So when you do work for other companies and helping them with AI, do you need to lean on your coding or do you now lean on to the tools and you're able to get around the coding, or how does it integrate with your work?
Well, this is interesting because I think we're still at a point with AI where there are so many companies asking for it, but generally they just want like a make automation or they want a Zapier thing built and they want these trusted tools and they know that you can use A to connect to B and get result C, but there's this kind of accepted way that they feel safe doing it. I don't really like to work that way. I like to custom code stuff where I can because it's a lot more adaptable. You can do much more cool stuff if you are, making it from scratch yourself. And then you don't pay for it. Zapier, I mean, I don't know if you use Zapier, but I've had a couple of occasions where if you get it slightly wrong, you can just get these crazy looped zaps. I think my record was about $1,800 in loot zaps over the course of
Oh my
24
goodness.
before it surfaced. They were very good about it. They refunded the money. But it's yeah, so I much prefer like custom coding stuff in Python, which I think is just it's just quicker, it's cheaper, it's easier. And I do lean more on my coding background, although I don't know how to do it as well as a developer would. But you don't need to know that anymore with Claude Code or with Codex.
Mm. So rather than just, yeah, that's great. So rather than using a make and Zapier, which I think it's graphical,
Yeah.
linking
Yeah.
this up, linking that up, you actually go in there and write it. But when we say write it, we're really now using just Claude to write it, aren't we? I mean, is that what you're?
Mhm.
I guess you're looking through the code and just seeing that it makes sense. I guess, do you go in there and actually tweak the code, or do you just completely rely on Claude now?
No, I'm completely reliant on it. And to be honest, I'm not alone. I think Uber
Mhm.
now writes something like 83% of their code. I think it was the last model of GPT. I think it was 5.5 was actually entirely written by the previous model. I know my husband in his job, they do everything with Claude Code.
Mhm.
And it's interesting. I've noticed it as a marketer. I've noticed how my brain has even started to work differently. And it's now less about like deep work and more about the context shifting. Um, but yeah, I don't really know anyone who works in this industry who actually writes stuff by hand. You're just a glorified babysitter.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go back to this loop zap thing that you mentioned. That's one of the problems that I guess people can get
Mhm.
into. Do you know how that came about? I mean, what went wrong in that case?
I can't quite remember. I was very embarrassed about it, but it was just like this infinite loop of data that I'd accidentally set up. So it was kind of sending
Oh, okay.
thing and then re-triggering it.
Right.
And by the time I noticed it was too late.
Really?
Um,
I mean,
but
what
that
how
is
long time frame are you talking about?
it was 24 hours, but still $1,800 in 24 hours. It was yeah, it was very annoying.
Yeah. Isn't there a mechanism to sort of set a budget or something so that you get flagged up or caps it or something?
There is actually. I think this is why they refunded me because I think sometimes the limit that you set, if it shoots up, then I think it kind of takes a minute to catch up, and I think that might have been what happened.
Oh, okay. I mean, we had a similar incident with we were actually hacked. We had an AWS account and we were hacked, and somebody attacked one of our servers and they set up some crypto mining thing, and
Wow.
it turned on hundreds of servers. Because we'd made mistakes in setting up the permissions. That was the issue. The permissions was open to anybody rather
Yeah.
than just one person. And so when they hacked in, they had access to, and so we had, it was over $2,000 bill. And like you, I had to beg to get the money back.
Well, I think that this is such a good thing to be aware of in the era of AI development because you said oh do you look at your code? The code is like 10% of everything that you do, and I'm sure you see this as well. The 90% is the security, the permissions. I read an awful story about someone with a small business recently, and it was with the Google Maps API. I think Google have recently changed how their APIs work, but someone managed to hack into his API and I think it was about $15,000 that the hacker spent on generating images. But this is where we are in the world. If you leave an API permission open, people will come and generate 5,000 videos, and that will cost you a fortune.
Yeah, right. And this is, I think, where I guess a solopreneur that wants to do this stuff themselves just needs to be a little bit careful, right? Um,
Yeah.
it's one of the things that I often have with my clients is the difference between a prototype and a production uh,
Hmm.
delivery in anything we do. We've done engineering, we've done all sorts of things, from electronics to AI stuff. And just as an example, I stood up a game called Wheel of Fortune whilst the guy was demonstrating this Wheel of Fortune game in a meeting we had, which took about 5 minutes to play the game, I'd already coded it up and tested it and had it running on my computer. But that was just a HTML hack, right? I mean, it was very impressive to say to people, wow, I built the game before you finished doing it. But I
Yeah.
still, it wasn't in production. I didn't have the security or the permissions and everything set up and multiple accounts and all those other things that need to be set up. Um, and I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong, but you sound like you have a good deep knowledge of how these things work, and you still have to bring that deep knowledge in. Um,
Mm.
so I suppose Claude can help you with that too, right? But you need
Yeah,
to know to ask it.
and I think this is the important thing. And I know that when I first started using AI, I was like, wow, this is so like you can do anything, you can create anything. It's so cool, amazing.
Mm,
But I think you soon learn that if you want to put stuff in production and if you want to do it particularly with clients and on behalf of other people, you better know about security and you better know about row level security. So if you know if you've got multi-level of access, and that is, people think it's so exciting, you work in AI, it must be really cool. Well, not really. Half of my time is spent battling over SQL and permissions and like trying to piece like this stuff together and like trying to make one MCP work with one API. Like it's the orchestration of it. It's not just like, oh, I created this cool thing. It's like I created this cool thing and I want it to bring in six different sources of data. But how do I then normalize all that data? And
mm,
how do I parse it properly? And then how do I make it, it's not just like making something cool. But
yeah.
luckily I find all that stuff really interesting. So thank goodness.
Okay. Well, let's just dive into maybe, do you have a particular project that you're proud of that we can use to illustrate some of this? Obviously we can anonymize a little bit. Something you've done recently, perhaps.
Yeah, I really love the projects where you can, as I said, where you can kind of see quite a quick outcome.
Mm,
And I think one way that AI can be used really effectively at the moment is looking for leads. So if you're in a business, especially if you're in a business that is not particularly technologically forward thinking, I think this is where it can work really well for you. And I'll give you the example of working for a construction company or working with a construction company recently. And it was a lead generation dashboard that had six different data points coming in. So we're in the UK where we have, and you have the same in the US, you have access to Edgar data.
hmm
That's a free API. We have Companies House, which is similar.
hmm
So it was pulling in data from companies that were going bust. This contractor, they did demolition and fit outs. So it was looking at companies that were going bust, where they were registered, the kinds of properties that their offices might be in, and it was looking at bringing in news APIs to see if there's anything in the news about the companies and what they were doing with their buildings. And then even looking at energy data, so you could try to figure out the square footage of the office. And it was just so, this is my idea of fun. It was so much fun to kind of look at all these different data points. And once you saw kind of, oh, this might be a building that needs to be referred to a demolition company. And this is before they go because there is like a few formal portals that will ask for tenders. So this is like all the signals that we look at before they go for tender.
mm
And it was just so cool to be able to extrapolate all of this data and kind of rank it on a few different um, levels of importance and then have a rating and a confidence and then be able to find the person from the company that you need to speak to if you wanted to pitch for this project and just kind of bringing it all together in one place. I just thought that was so brilliant.
mm
And there are, if really any industry that you look at, I've just built something similar for another part of the construction industry. Any industry you look at, it's
mm
possible to do that from data that is quite readily available to you.
mm.
And I know that people pay a fortune for Apollo and for clay, but you can do it yourself, and it's pretty much free.
That's amazing, yeah. And I don't think there's many businesses out there that don't want new customers,
Mhm.
right? And to
Yeah.
get new customers, you need qualified leads. And so you're able to, and you're successfully doing that, find these qualified leads, maybe ahead of the competition. So you can position yourself as you did with that demolition. Um, perhaps before they're looking, or just as they're looking, or right at the cusp of where they start making a decision, so you can do the human part, right? And the
Yeah,
human part
exactly.
to me is building that relationship uh,
Hmm.
with a potential client early on, and then getting that trust built, and then you just naturally follows that you do that work.
Hmm.
It's a nice. I mean, I'm big on AI and humans. So AI and people.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
some of my clients are very adamant that they don't want to lose staff. Not all of them. Some of them.
Hmm.
Some of them just literally just say, "Yep, okay, I'm cutting, and cutting." But others are saying, "Well, no, I want to preserve my staff. I like my staff. They're really valuable to me."
Hmm.
Um, the way I see AI helping is making them operate as a bigger company. So, for
Hmm.
example, a logistics company out of Switzerland I'm working with, he said this exact thing to me. I don't want to be losing anybody. I want to figure out how to use AI. I think
Hmm.
he's more thinking about how to prepare himself and his team for the AI wave that's coming. But I
Hmm.
think there's an upside here. This is where I wanted to go this conversation. How do you grow a business or make a business bigger than it is with the same number of people? That would be a really nice outcome, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think that is a very healthy way of looking at it. And I know we've had waves and waves, like the tech industry is down. I think I think unemployment is up like 83% or something in the tech industry, and the main reason for that that was given was AI. And I think you are absolutely right, where there does need to be a human in the loop at some point, and it is that babysitting thing. And AI can do a lot of things, but does it have taste? Does it have, there are things that it doesn't have.
Mm.
And I think that in AI, there's a lot of, um, oh, hello, he's still there.
Yep, I'm still there. We had a little,
Sorry,
a little.
sorry, my screen popped off. Where was I? Yeah, I think in AI there is a lot of like, oh, we've got this new thing, and now we can get rid of all the people that used to do it before.
Mm,
Whereas I think if you take the stance of how do I keep all the people that I have, but just use AI to supercharge them and grow my profit margin is a
mm,
much more interesting way of thinking about it. I also think, the cost of AI when you're scaling it within a company, and this probably isn't completely relevant to companies that maybe aren't doing coding right now. But I know that so many companies are spending almost the cost of a full-time employee on the AI that a full-time employee uses. So
mm.
I think we're going to get to this inflection point sometime where that has to balance out also,
Yeah.
because you can't have an employee and AI. So surely you'd rather have a human who is slightly bolstered by AI to kind of do the best job possible. So I think it's a really evolving situation, and it's interesting to see, going to be interesting to see where the world goes with it.
You mentioned so many great things. I'm going to pick up on a few of them, but the first one is costs. Now, we can all get into ChatGPT for free, and I have a paid version. It's 20 or 30 bucks a month. And I think there's this expectation that AI is virtually free or just the same as any other software subscription that we might have. Like an email account is $10 a month. I'm paying $25 a month for ChatGPT. I
Mhm.
believe and I call that the retail side of things. I believe that is, well, I know it's subsidized heavily, but it's also creating this perception that AI is cheap.
Mhm.
But what you're talking about is the API side of things, when you have to go and get one piece of software to talk to another, and that's grabbing it out of an LLM, that becomes very expensive.
Mhm.
We did some calculations. I want to know what how it seems to be so much cheaper when you run when you run something yourself through a chatbot than it is when you try to do the same thing through an API.
Mhm.
Have you seen
Yes.
that? Yeah. Isn't that weird
Yeah.
to you? That's weird to me.
It is, but it's like the whole thing of, get someone hooked on this in their personal life, and then they will go to work and they will spend the enterprise money on it.
Right.
And so this is a thing with Claude, because I have this kind of agent set up, and it lives in a cloud installation, so it doesn't operate on my machine. It works in the cloud. And when I created it about 4 months ago, it was brilliant because I could just route it via MCP through my Claude. And I have the $200 subscription. Like it took a bit, like a tiny bit off the top. It didn't really, I didn't feel it one bit. And then Claude or Anthropic announced that actually there were lots of people doing what I'm doing, and these are the kinds of tools that you actually should be, paying API prices for. And I was like, well, that, for someone like me, that's actually quite going to be quite a lot of money. And I don't know if you've ever got to the end of your limit, or if you're in a session and you're in the middle of something and you really need to finish it and you get to your session limit, then you have to go into paying API pricing,
Mm.
and it really mounts up.
Yeah.
um Luckily they did walk that back, so I'm not paying API pricing yet for the agent setup. But yeah, it's an interesting one. And I also think that the whole Fable conversation and how Fable was released, and it was released widely, and then it was like, oh no, actually now it's only 50% of your subscription, and then if you want more, you have to pay API pricing. There is a lot of upset about that in the developer small business world.
Mm.
um and again, that's going to be so interesting to see who comes out on top, because now 5.6 Sol has come out, and I think I prefer using that to
Mm.
Fable.
Mm.
Um, and ChatGPT have given it away, and they've taken away any limits. And yeah, it's so funny. I saw on Reddit yesterday someone described the whole Anthropic, OpenAI thing with their models. It was like it's my parents getting divorced, and they're both trying to win me over as like the favorite parent. And I was like, that's exactly
That's
what it is. Like
fabulous.
I've had a Claude reset today. I had two ChatGPT or two Codex resets earlier this week.
Mm.
They're just trying to get people on side, because
Yeah.
then, like anything, then we'll get hooked, and then we'll actually have to start paying for it.
Oh, yeah. Well, then we'll get hooked. I don't know about you, but I am hooked. I mean, I use it every day. It's just so powerful. I think I'm always expanding ways to use it. And I think, look, honestly, I don't know anybody in my professional career that doesn't use some form of LLM, whether it be
Mhm.
just a basic ChatGPT or advanced agents and, obviously mastery from people that I know closely. But I guess there are people out there that aren't using it, but most people are using it. And what I've observed, and maybe if you can tell me it's true, that we tend to just start using it more and more and more. As I've watched my colleagues over the last, I guess 18 months is a good time frame, going from yeah, AI is there, to now, oh yes, let's just put it into ChatGPT, to now I'm running it in Claude and here's the document, to doing more and more and more advanced things just over that time. It almost seems contagious.
Mhm. Yeah.
And you feel like you're getting left behind if you don't use it.
Yeah, I do have one friend who she works for a public body, and
Mm.
they are not allowed to do anything with AI. And she doesn't really notice because she's never used it,
Hmm.
but it's interesting to hear her be like, oh my God, I had to do. And she's quite senior in her role, and say like this data entry task that she had to do, like she had to copy this one thing from Excel to Word, and it took her 2 hours. And I was like, that's a 3 minute job in Claude. It's a 3 minute job. And I think it's very short-sighted. I understand how big businesses have to be very, very careful when it comes to data and
Mm.
how AI is used in the company. But I think there is nothing against testing some, secure, or even looking at, and I think this is something that's going to really boom in the next year, is looking at local models.
Yeah.
Um, I've seen so many more people discuss that, and I've started using Alama a little bit
Oh, yeah.
for information.
Yeah. I
But
heard
yeah.
when you run Llama local, it's very,
Mm.
very slow. What's your experience with it?
It's been fine. Like it's absolutely not as good as a Claude or a GPT, but
Mm.
it's fine. And if it's just very easy tasks,
Mm.
um, then why not? I mean, I do love my Claude for creative stuff and my GPTs for coding. So
Hmm.
I'm not going to be racing to get a local model. And I think if you want to do it properly, you have to have a machine set up that's
Right.
specifically for your at home AI.
Right. Just to give you the horsepower to drive the model properly, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like a Mac Studio, and because these models, even the lowest one of Alarm is like 12 gigabytes or something.
Yeah, that would be fun. We haven't done anything here with that yet, but we did stand up a rag recently, and this comes back to the whole cost thing. I don't know whether you did this, but I had a particular project that I wanted to just have isolated. I didn't want to be pushing stuff out, and
Mhm.
I had could contain that project. So I got my guys to help me set up a rag, and then I literally I typed two questions in, and then we didn't touch it for 24 hours. We went back and looked at the cost. Two questions cost me $6.30.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
So I haven't asked it any more questions. I said to my guys, can you figure out why this is costing me so much? It wasn't even that big. It wasn't even the whole directory. It was a small,
Yeah.
it was about 150 meg of a gigabyte folder.
Mm.
So I really wanted the gigabyte, and I wanted to do what you and I do with Claude, and that's just, keep asking it questions and looking at
Mm.
it from different angles and getting reports and sorts of things. I thought that would run into thousands and thousands of dollars.
And
So I,
that's the thing, it can just get run away without you even
yeah,
knowing.
yeah. So yeah, but you can do so much with Claude and Copilot and Claude
Mhm.
Code. I, I question the wisdom about having a RAG. I think, and the other thing I wanted to bring up, one of my colleagues in a bigger company, big into multinational company, they have a system where they can switch between internal and external. I don't know whether
Mhm.
you've seen that, where they can just say, okay, I want to work on the external stuff, like I want to do, just like we would normally use Claude, but then now I want to do some work on the local, the internal files, and he just
Mhm.
switches between the two of them, so
Mm,
they don't get mixed up. Yeah,
that's smart.
yeah, I thought that was. I have to ask him if he knows about the costs. I bet
But
the
I
internal
do
one's
think
really expensive.
I do think this is going to be another big, well, I think it's already started being a big boom, is that contextual layer
Mm,
of information, because LLMs are only as good as the information they've got, right?
mm,
If you don't feed them the right information, and what company do you know that has, a very, very well organized set of data in like either JSON or MD that's ready for an LLM to access? It doesn't really exist. So I think this is going to be like another big thing that people are going to start really considering their strategies in how they present their data to their models, and how it's safe, how it's secure, and how it's categorized, how it's, essentially like, and this is why another reason why I like working with small businesses, because we can just stick everything in Notion,
mm.
and it's then very easy to set up a Claude with a Notion and then have that act as the repository of information.
Yeah,
But doing that on an enterprise scale, I think, is a really interesting challenge.
yeah. Well, here's another great thing I'll hook into. The this where you said something like where is all the data that's in JSON format and so on and so on. And you know what came to my mind? The software industry.
Mm.
Um, and I mean, I've got plenty of guys who have been affected by what you said was the 83% downturn in the tech
Yeah.
industry. Not because we're not writing code, but because we are writing probably more code than ever now, but we don't
Mm.
need so many developers. Um,
Mhm.
I've got a young guy who's really good at AI, and he said to me he's doing 5 times the work that a normal person would do. And we've been able to get projects out really, really quickly.
Mhm.
It's no wonder that there's, and I think, where's this going? Here's is interesting. I want to get your thoughts on this. We've already seen the software industry be hit, and I think it's going to continue. But then I think there's a few other areas too, right, where there's a lot of data
Mhm. Yep.
and it's already there that the models can access. I'm thinking of content generation. We're seeing that.
Mm.
Um, I think finance,
Yep.
especially law. I think those areas, there's a lot of information out there. Marketing. Probably,
Mhm.
I probably use marketing more than anything because it just seems to be so good at just pulling the information in and giving me something that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah, but I do wonder, because because so I'm also in the background, I'm developing a go-to-market platform for solopreneurs, for founders, that you can put a URL in of a website, and it's basically for the people who are riding the AI boom and who have built a product but have never learned to sell. They've never had to know to sell anything. They've never had to know to market anything, and they can supply the tool with their website and a one-line sentence about the product, and
Mm,
it can get a read on what it is and who your market is, and then you go through like a 20-minute chat interview
Mm,
to talk further about what your objectives are and like what you like to do, whether you like to be on LinkedIn, whether you like to be on Instagram, and how that might fit into the ICP you're trying to reach. And then it comes out with a strategy that it knows will reach the user that you're trying to get. So it kind of takes away that friction of like, I think marketing is so scary, and it's just really difficult if you are like, right, I know that I need to like write some blogs and maybe start Substack, and like, do I need to be on Instagram? Do I need, it's really hard to get your head around where to even start, and you just end up blasting information out into the ether, and then none of it works. And this kind of like directs people to the place they need to be
100,
to
100.
market products.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
but I do wonder with this, because one thing that I think is such a skill at the moment is marketing with AI, but that's still in your tone of voice and it still has taste, because that's something AI doesn't have yet, is taste. And you can still tell if you're reading something that's generated by AI, I think. And so I wonder both like how that's going to go. Like, are we just going to become receptive to a completely different type of information? And are we going to become receptive to receiving marketing that is created by AI? Will the companies that do it a lot more smarter start winning? Will, because in the old days there were so few touch points in advertising to reach a consumer. Now it used to be something like 18 in the 90s. Now it's like 38, 40 times someone has to see your brand to then go, oh, that's that company that does AI transformation. Are we just going to become more and more oblivious to it because everyone is churning out more and more advertising? It's just, we're in, like, when I think about it too much, I feel quite uncomfortable because it's such an unknown entity, but it's also such an exciting time and such an opportunity, I think, for any business to really try to see what's coming down the line and get in front of it.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the statistics are, but there's just so much AI generated content out there now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have an opinion on this. I want to test it with you. I believe there's a future for AI generated content, and there's a future for genuine content. And I would like to say this is genuine content. This is us in a real conversation between two people, and we don't know what each other's going to say or do until it happens. That has a place, and that has a place in integrity with human beings. But then
Mhm.
there's this AI generated content that can be quite entertaining. It can go into different areas and do things in different ways. I think the line gets blurred, and I think where I start to have an issue is when AI tries to do the genuine thing.
Mhm.
AI, I believe, should be a genre in and of itself with its
Mhm.
own life and its own place and its own entertainment, its own information services, and all those other great things that help people. For example, if I wanted to learn how to do something in the garage, I might use YouTube, or there might be something AI generated, which is even better to
Mhm.
teach me how to do something informational. But if I wanted to connect with a human being and understand what a human experience was like the guy
Yeah.
walking on the moon, I don't want the AI bot telling me what it's like, feels like to be on the moon made up. I want to know what it really felt like for Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong to walk on the moon in their words as they're doing it. That's an extreme example, but I think people want to hear real experiences and see other people's emotions, and that's over here. And AI
Mhm.
needs to stay away from that and stay over here. What do you think?
Yeah, and that's something that can never be replicated by
Mm,
AI. I think it kind of diverges into two, routes here. I think there
mm,
is a world, and this is one of my predictions for the future, that there will be AI communicating with AI, and the human will kind of be more and more out of the loop. So, for example, if you're starting a business, if you're setting up a website, if you're rehashing your website, you can't just optimize for SEO anymore. You have to have a markdown version of the website so that it can be read by LLMs, so that your website can be surfaced in an LLM chat. And I now optimize websites purely for GEO, not at all for SEO, because it kind of covers SEO anyway. But I think that's one of the things, like, you need to appeal to a robot. You don't need to appeal to Google anyway anymore. But that's great because, to get anywhere in SEO rankings before, it take 9 months. Now it literally is 24 hours, 48 hours, and you're there. So I
mm,
think that's one thing. And I think there's going to be another thing in like the situation of, if you're buying something, so like say you want to buy a SaaS tool, you might have an agent that you brief what you want from a SaaS tool. It will go out and source them for you and tell you these are the top three. And you'll be like, great, reach out to those three SaaS tools. The SaaS tool will have an agent that will talk back to your agent and they will have a discussion because your agent will know what you like and what you're looking for. And their agent will know what they sell and what they can offer. And
Mm,
that will just completely remove the human from the loop. I still think in things like sales, there is going
mhm,
to be a need for a human at some point.
mm,
But for the quick and easy purchases that you just need data, facts, onboarding, what does it look like? Like it's just going to be your agent talking to another agent. And I even see this with my clients. One of my clients is a huge Claude fan, and I've been coding up some things for him, which I generally do in Claude, and he will send me his agent's feedback. And I'm like, should we just remove ourselves from this conversation and we'll cut out the middleman and just let our agents get to it. Um,
what did he
but
say?
he's up for anything. He will do anything to do with AI. He loves it. So yeah, I think that is going to be like one of the big strands is that the human is going to get further and further away from the AI.
Mm,
But I think the human side of it will become a lot more precious and a lot more valued than
right,
maybe it is right now. But
right.
yeah, I think we'll see that kind of separate. I don't know what you think about that.
I do, and I want to go with this idea that there was a time before there was the internet, before there was this whole digital world, right? I mean, I'm a little older than you, Alice, but there was a time before email, before computers, and I would, yes, I had TV and radio, not that old, and I would just go out into the street and I would play with my friends and I would run around, and the world was very real. A lot of the things that I did and I grew up with were sports and activities and crafts and arts and trades and everything was out there in the physical world, and that's the world I grew up in. And the as I've grown up, I've become more and more and more and more engaged with the digital world.
Hmm.
Um, and I think kids coming through today, I mean, this is where I want to go with this, are seeing the digital world as the first thing often. I don't know how many times I see kids, on their iPads in the car, on their phone when they're having dinner, or sitting not watching the football game or playing the football game. They're actually on their phones. They are embedded in the digital world right from the get-go.
Mm.
Um, that has implications, I think,
Hmm.
but the whole world isn't built around it. What I was trying to say is the whole world isn't in the digital world. There's actually a real world out here. You and I are working in it every day, and we tend to go deep into it. But there's so much that I mean, there's plenty of examples of where it doesn't get it right. I did a thing the other day with taking. Can we get the car? Should I take my car to the
Oh
car
my God, I did that
wash?
one. Yeah, yeah,
Should I walk or should I take the car to the car
yeah.
wash?
To the car wash, yeah.
So it didn't really have a sense about what good logic.
Hmm.
I think that's probably where we're at. That's we hit the ceiling of its capabilities at the moment with this technique. I think there are ways to overcome it. They need to be invented where it can really understand the real world. Um, but it can only respond to what it can witness. And
Mm.
at the moment, it's got to be put into a digital form before it can witness it.
Yeah.
Mm. We have covered some great topics, haven't we? This is really interesting. Look, we're probably running out of time, but we're going to have you back because I want to dig into this a bit more, Alice. Is there anything any questions you have or things you want to say?
No, I mean, I think I'm probably going to go to sleep tonight thinking about. So I've got three kids and thinking
Mhm.
about what you just said because they've grown up with the internet. And I think it is such a different childhood. I
Mm.
was of the generation, I'm 40, so I was of the generation where we kind of got it halfway through. So we kind of had that part of playing on your bikes and being outside all the time, and that was the normal childhood.
Mm.
And it is such a worry. I think it is such a worry, but I think for one thing, hopefully AI may develop in a way that it will be able to protect our children more from the bad stuff that happens on the internet. Although I think in lots of ways it does put them in danger as well.
Mm.
Um, but one positive use of AI, I think, are the tools that you can use it for your children. So my daughter just did her GCSEs, which are her exams, her
Mm.
16 exams, and she had a horrible period of ill health this year. So she had like 4 months out of school. So when she went back to school for her exams, I built her an app to fill in the gaps
What a
that she
mum.
fill in the gaps in her curriculum that she'd missed. And it was on her phone. So that was very natural to her to study on her phone and to kind of, I put XPs in there. So like she got through a level, she got points. And I think that is one really beautiful way to do it. And I've heard stories of people creating these beautiful, I don't know, like picture books with AI for their kids. And I think if you make it collaborative like that, for my son, he's a gamer, but I don't want him to spend all day every day in his room with the curtains closed gaming. I made him an app on how to code a game. So like he can, yeah, he's still on a computer, but it's just a bit more like educational and it's interactive because we look at it together and we look at and like for every lesson he has to fill something out and say, what have I learned? What was I inspired by?
Mm,
How can I go outside and learn more about this? So I think it's just about balancing all of that. And I think if you think about it too deeply, this world, and saying this as someone who works in it, is terrifying
mm,
because there are so many scary unknowns.
yeah,
But
agreed.
I think the world is mostly good. People in the world are mostly good, and I think you just almost have to believe that there's more good than bad, and like let's all work together to make sure that we don't all get eaten by robots. And if we do, my advice would be just make sure you're saying please and thank you to your Claude because some
Yeah, that's
some
right. So,
some chats that I see people have, I'm like, you can't speak to your AI like that. If they take over, you're going to be the first they'll come for.
yeah. Well, there is that, but I think it's also it just creates a bad habit too. I think, you can get away with it if you really want it. You can be as horrible as you want to it,
Yeah.
but it's also, is that going to transfer into the real world? It's hard. I think it's hard to separate. I always use my P's and Q's when I'm on that. It makes me feel better too. I feels like I'm talking to someone that I care a little bit about, and maybe they care about me. It's a little, I know it's a little bit made up. Uh,
And if you show frustration towards an AI and LLM, if you look at your token usage, because the LLM then goes away and says, "Oh gosh, the user is upset. This has happened.
mm.
I need to now applicate." So it actually uses quite a lot more tokens to reassure you than if you
Does
didn't
it?
swear at it. So
Oh,
yeah,
really? Okay.
yeah. If you
Well,
take one piece of advice away today, it's that.
that's the one piece of advice. Be nice because otherwise it's going to cost you more. Alice, well, I've got one more question for you, but stick around after the shows. I want to talk to you. Final question is AI, is it hype or help?
So I've been thinking about this one a lot, and I would say for me, 100% help. Like it's brilliant. I can't believe that I lived without it. The same
Mm,
way that, before we had computers, we couldn't believe that we lived without them. But I
mm,
think on balance, it's half and half because so much of AI is conjecture and, loud noises, loud words and like, ugh.
mm.
Um, and it's the quiet stuff underneath, I think, that really makes a difference. And that's what is going to eventually change the world. Right now it's all data centers and Fable and hacking into things and um I think just like with anything in life, sit back, watch what happens, experiment a bit with it for you, and then it's help. Then it's help. But there are so many ways. Okay, I take it back. It's 100% help.
Okay, 100% help, not even 1% hype. All right. All right, Alice, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, that was a fantastic conversation with Alice. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I do. We covered some really important topics for solopreneurs and anyone who's dabbling in AI. One of the big things that we talked about was automations. Automations is not necessarily AI, it's an automatic way of doing things. Been around for quite a while, at least 10 years, and it can help you do things more easily and more quickly. Automations can often run on platforms like Make or Zapier. Alice's point of view that it's better, it's faster, it's safer to code it up in Python, especially with code. And that was a really interesting insight. We also talked about the downturn in the IT tech market, down 83%, with many, many people in this industry finding themselves out of work as a direct result of AI. And then we also talked about some of the risks that come with AI and running agents and doing a lot of this stuff ourselves. Often where people can get into trouble is where you have security, you have permissions, you have legislations, all those sorts of things. Unless you're prompting them and have experience how to prompt, Claude or whatever tools you're using, you can get yourself into trouble not using them. Well, if you want to know more about Alice and what she does in her company, please follow the links in the description. If you want to know more about Skillion, please do the same. I hope that helps, and thanks for watching.